Good evening. Are the graduates still here tonight or are they on break? Can I hear a voice? Are the graduates still here? All right. I have a message for everyone, but it's especially for you. Good evening to all of you, President and Mrs. Wong, distinguished trustees, faculty, alumni, families, guests, dragons, to all of the distinguished and honored members here on the dais, and to my comrades who are seated above, who by name, Jerry Vernado, Dr. Nathan Hare, Benjamin Stewart, Nesbitt Demosthenes Valentino Crutchfield, James T. Garrett, Claude Bourret Wilson, and if I forgot anybody, y'all better forgive me. I lift your names in this location tonight that you be recognized for your vision, for your courage, and for your determination to make for a better San Francisco State University. My special greetings tonight are to the San Francisco State University 2018 graduates. I greet you all tonight truly with a sense of humility, knowing the privilege and the responsibility to speak a word of encouragement. This word of encouragement must inspire you and inspire all those gathered here within the sound of my voice. Graduates, you have earned the privilege of this special occasion. It's a time-honored tradition that marks your achievement. We are all very proud of you, and we want you to not only enjoy the remainder of this day safely, but we have many, many things that we expect of you tomorrow. If you will lend me your ears, know that I speak to you not just as a doctor, not just as an alumnus, but I speak to you as your grandmother. I am your grandmother. I am your mother. I am your sister. I am the guardian of our ancestors who are asking me to share a profound message to all of you tonight. I want to just celebrate you, but the times will not allow just celebration. The times say that we must be sober. Take a moment in your celebration tonight. Take a moment in your celebration tonight and listen for your charge, that which you must do when you leave here, when the celebration is over. Graduates, the moral compass of our nation has shifted in the wrong direction. We are living in turbulent times, many wondering if this is what it was like during the Civil War or during the American Revolution. The stakes are high for all of humanity. Never in contemporary U.S. history have we as multi-ethnic Americans of indigenous, immigrant, and former slave heritage been faced with such an enormous responsibility to actively actively make this nation a more perfect union. You are brown, you are Asian, Hispanic, African American, European American, and you are now coming together on an equal plane. And you must commit to making this a better union. Never have we experienced a frontal assault against the institutional pillars of our democracy. Never have we been asked by the holder of the highest office in our nation to go backward, not forward. Never have those with eyes to see and ears to hear been expected to distrust that which they saw, that which they heard, as nothing more than fake news. Never have we been caught holding up walls, commiserating with each other, in shock, all the time knowing or wondering if this is the time for us to talk or is the time for us to act. Never have we had a would-be king, a would-be emperor, or a would-be dictator occupy the Oval Office who would desecrate the sanctity of public trust, tempting us with prosperity at the expense of integrity. So graduates, I call on you today to consider the urgency of now. This is the time for you to connect the dots that link your individual career to the turbulent times. So in the rhetorical, I ask you today, what will you do with your diploma? While I don't expect your answer now, I do want you to leave here today and for the rest of your lives, remembering, reflecting, and perhaps even haunted by 7 little words, words that might guide you in formulating a meaningful answer to the question, what will you do with your diploma? Whether you are part of a problem, part of a solution, if you're neither of those, if you're both of those, I call on each of you to actively care about a cause, commit to a cure. Devote your time, your talent, and your treasure in good conscience and with courage, because our nation cannot survive with passive citizenship. Let me share with you a little bit of my own personal story. They say in the pulpit that it's good for a testimony. I'm going to give you a little testimony tonight. I was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 68 years ago, under the oppressive regime of Jim Crow. You all know Jim, the strong man of the Deep South. My parents, Ernest and Agnes Tascoe, actively cared enough about their 3 little children and the cause of freedom and equality to commit to a cure. With conscience and courage, they escaped the Deep South. They immigrated north to the sanctuary city by the bay, San Francisco, in 1952. And upon their arrival, they celebrated. For their generation, relocating from the South and providing quality education for their children was the ultimate cure that would defeat Jim Crow. As I grew up, though, I realized that in spite of their best intentions, the unspoken caveat to our enjoyment of that sense of freedom and equality would be our willingness to assimilate into a melting pot model that validated as the only ideal the image of light skin, straight hair, white features, white style, white culture, white perspective, and if necessary, a willingness on our part to desecrate ourselves and desecrate our own people. And we were expected to resist the temptation to protest against their preferential treatment. As a youngster, I saw this as a cause that I cared about, and I cared about it a lot. It didn't feel right. I didn't like having to press my hair, lighten or powder my face. I didn't like curling my lips in so they wouldn't appear as full. I didn't like that I had to speak in a whisper because that's the way they talk. I didn't like that I couldn't speak about race and the unfairness of it all. I didn't like having white people judging me, deciding if I was good or bad. Was I worthy, not worthy of their respect? Was I eligible for opportunities that only they had control of doling out? We were expected to ignore the elephant in the room. But I was just a kid, barely a teen. But as I got older, this thing that I cared about got into my consciousness, deep into my soul. It smoldered and it damaged my self-esteem. And by the time I got to San Francisco State College, I was carrying some pretty heavy baggage, and I needed a cure. Healing from the mental bondage of assimilation, the suppression of who I was, the ignorance and the shame of not knowing, the need to discover and to learn, to like, to love, to value, and to accept my true self. A wonderful, absolutely phenomenal woman of color, an African-American woman. I threw the pressing comb down on the floor, washed my hair fresh, and let it go. After grooming my fro, engaged my sisters and bros, felt the freedom overdue began to grow. And when the students of color said no, European education had to go, or we'd shut down the school still to show, make it clear, miseducation had to go. And so we did for 4.5 months on strike. Drop the mic. So it was in 1968, 50 years ago, that the Black Students Union of San Francisco State took the shackles off my feet so I could dance. They envisioned for me and all students, particularly those of color, similarly situated with miseducation and mistreatment, a pathway for healing. They formed a coalition of students and faculty, Black, Asian, Hispanic, white, who captured their vision and fought shoulder to shoulder to achieve 15 demands. The process required a historic student-led, faculty followed, and supported, community-supported strike, which lasted 4.5 months. More than 500 of us were arrested, myself the first to fall. We were beaten and made to defend our cause against the San Francisco Tactical Squad and the California National Guard that was called on us one day when we were simply exercising our constitutional rights to gather and to protest peacefully. Heads were beaten. The cover of Newsweek magazine captured the image of a bloody, beaten brother named McAllister. But we fought valiantly. And when the dust settled, the students were not challenged when they declared victory. There became increased recruitment and retention of students of color. There became increased hiring and tenure of faculty of color. Parity in access to higher education was significantly improved, and I will note that nearly 30% of today's graduating class is Hispanic. Stop and note that tonight. Course content became more relevant, balanced, fact-checked for integrity. Culturally sensitive, competent, and effective pedagogical styles emerged, and the College of Ethnic Studies was born. Born in the same year that the historic strike was negotiated, settled on March 20th, 1969. That settlement and that College of Ethnic Studies brought forth the gradual and systematic dismantling of the nation's melting pot model, eliminating the monopoly held by European American culture, favoring now instead diversity and multiculturalism. Stop and applaud for that. Heroic students who at the time were your very age, who are here with us tonight, they saw a cause that needed care. They committed to a cure with conscience and courage. They were not asking what America would do for them. They were doing for America that which needed to be done and was overdue. They were the new generation of Americans spoken of so eloquently in 1961 by the more honorable President, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, who said they were the ones to whom the torch was passed, who were unwilling to witness or permit the slow undoing of those human rights to which this nation pledged to always be committed. Today, they celebrate 50 years since the strike, and we celebrate with them. Graduates, I made a full recovery from the issues of my earlier days, when our nation was more backward on race, gender, and choice. I went on to medical school at the University of California, San Francisco. I landed a surgical residency at Highland Hospital in Oakland, where my healing came in handy, and my experience as an activist empowered me to politely discourage my chief of surgery from pursuing me inappropriately, simply because he found me charming and delightful. He would not accept that no meant no. And despite his choice to dangle the carrot of a career in surgery, I held steadfast to my principles as a woman. He didn't get it. I meant business had to show. Harassing women had to go. So, federal court deliberated. The jury said they hated, that the law was violated, and the chief who perpetrated, retaliated, was chief no more. And I might add that that was long before the Me Too movement. I went on to finish my training at Kaiser Hospital, advanced to the International Division as a senior medical consultant in Angola. I left Kaiser to become a first responder globally. You've already heard where I've been. But graduates, I want you to know there's something very liberating. Something very liberating about fighting for a cause and winning. I cut my first teeth in activism at San Francisco State. That cause and that victory gave me the courage to care enough to go to Kenya and Tanzania 7 days after the 1998 American Embassy bombing, bringing my skills, $250,000 worth of medical supplies, hope, encouragement for 5,000 victims who had been blinded, crippled, and maimed. It inspired me to go to Haiti for 3 years at the request of the Ministry of Health to address clinical concerns about cultural insensitivity in the practice of medicine by volunteers who seemed to see them as only poor Black people. It allowed me an opportunity to introduce telemedicine and laparoscopic surgery into the public sector in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. It inspired me to choose addiction medicine when I'm in the United States, to care for those whose lives are complicated with pain, with anger, bad memories, disappointment, helplessness, hopelessness, all resulting in their reliance on dangerously addictive drugs that have become their only hope for escaping their harsh reality. And finally, it inspired me to accept as a privilege the challenge of going to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where at the equator, the temperature rests at 103 and the humidity is 99 all of the time. But I have partnered as a CEO with the 21 million member Kimbungish Church in the Bas-Congo region. Their vision for prosperity, rooted deeply in faith, brings technological advances and revitalizes transportation on the Congo River, supports the economic growth of 9 surrounding sovereign nations in Central Africa. This project is designed for a fleet of barges customized to deliver hospital and ambulatory care, maritime academy training, advanced trade through fishing and agricultural industries, and safer movement of passengers throughout their nation. And so, my very dear graduates, are you still with me? I ask you again, what will you do with your diploma? Well, I call on you to pay attention. Pay attention to the world you have inherited. Many causes await your leadership and the opportunity for you to match your goals with your gifts. It could be addiction crisis, for they need someone to hear their cries. They need compassion, and they need strategic intervention. It may be the issues of housing and homelessness, human trafficking, food insecurity, rising income gaps, or perhaps you will be the one to restore our nation's focus on the truth that our environment does need protection. Maybe it will be the technological advances of artificial intelligence and the robots projected to dramatically impact the job market, systematically eliminating jobs. Is there a role for you in solving our nation's gun violence crisis that does not violate constitutional protections? That ball is in your court. Perhaps it will be the disparities found in our immigration policies that establish, in effect, an open northern border to Canada and a restrictive southern border to our brown neighbors. That certainly needs to be fixed. Or perhaps you'll challenge the president's concern that we have enough browns and blacks from SO nations. Let's bring in the Swedes. Perhaps you can fix that. Or maybe you will simply take DACA out of limbo. You might become or already are tired, sick and tired of being sick and tired of the fact that Black lives should, but Black lives don't matter. And if they do at all, not at the levels of parity with their white brothers and sisters, and that needs to be fixed. Maybe you will feel compelled to stare down the face of bigotry and hatred in action and say, hell no, not on my watch. Perhaps you will be the one who successfully launches that truth and reconciliation movement that is seasoned with grace, open to all, that bears the fruit of a verifiable a-racial society. And if politics is your path, and you are concerned about any of these issues that will meet you in the executive, legislative, or judicial arena, perhaps you'll let your conscience guide you to commit yourself to the cause of integrity, civility, equality, and justice for all of humankind, at home and abroad, and not just for your base. Graduates, my precious graduates, are you still with me? I'm about to wrap it up. That wasn't a pun. I don't have any more raps. How'd I do with busting my rhymes? I do okay? Graduates, I encourage you to think about these things and more. Your capacity to actively care about a cause, commit to a cure, conscientiously and courageously give your time, your talent, and your treasure. And this will guarantee a better future for all. And so, graduates, take now your paper. Take now your paper. Give it life. Apply what you have learned. Add to it your experience, for now it is your turn to move with measured confidence, discerning as you do the impact you can have in life when a cause will call on you. Don't fight the urge to do the things uncomfortable to do. Be unafraid to stand alone if alone is called of you, because you are a dragon, tested, tried and true. You have all the fire, faith, and courage. So dare to soldier through. But don't forget your safety net that rests inside of you, a conscience that will guide your thoughts with God, your only crew. Thank you. Congratulations, class of 2018.